Yes, 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 yes. Welcome to my world of fantasy. This is Vin. We are here to do a little DFS review for week 2 and 3. We got a couple people out there, it looks like. Groovy Q. Yes, how are you? He's saying, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Groovy Q. Welcome. All right, so we're going to go over a couple of our DFS lineups over the last 2 weeks. Doing pretty well in this league that I'm in. I'm in a DFS league, and it's been a lot of fun. 13 of us battling over and over each week, and so far, so good. We are doing pretty well, constructing some winning lineups. And as always, we play Jesse as well, one-on-one, heads up every week. We'll review those as well. So just to kind of start to see where we're at right now. We have 3 weeks in. We finished third. And then last week, for the first time, we finished first overall with 176 points, which is my high for this year so far. But cashed all 3 weeks. He pays out the top 3 every single week, and then 25% of the full pot for the whole season is paid out to the top 3 at the end of the year. So we're going to go over that. After 3 weeks, I sit at number 1 out of the 13 of us at 441 points, about 18 points, 17 points ahead of number 2 after 3 weeks. So again, finished third in the first week, third in the second week, and first last week out of the 13 in the league. And then so far we're 3-0 against Jesse as well. So let's get into it. I mean, our first lineup that we're going to review is week 2. So this is week 2. We're not going to spend a lot of time on here, but I did finish third. Tied for third, actually. If you can see on the left-hand side, we had someone with my exact lineup. Okay. We tied because we picked the exact same players. So what that tells me right off the bat is this guy, most likely a guy, knows what he's doing. Okay. And right now that's Afeld, and he's in second place. So this is somebody we want to look at probably when we do these reviews to see how he's playing and what players he's going after and where is he spending the most and where is he spending down the most. So that is someone when you have someone, like I think I play pretty well in DFS, and if I'm going to construct a lineup and someone's going to have the exact same lineup as me, we want to focus on that player going forward. Def a chick. We got Q in the chat. Def a chick. I mean, we could be playing chicks. You never know. You definitely never know. And that's funny. That's funny, but most likely a guy. So yeah, we'll get into it. This is 2 weeks ago. So not last week, the week before. We played Drake May, CMC. We played 2 weeks in a row because we played him last week as well. Chase Brown didn't do as well. Hollywood Brown was a player that I was targeting on the lower end for wide receiver. T. Higgins played well. JSN, I played him 2 weeks straight. Played him week 3 and week 2. He did very well. Paid down at tight end for Fannin, and then I played HN in my flex with Rams as my defense. So we scored 145 points, and that was good for third place in that week. ECU Pirate played a very interesting lineup as a whole, but really what he did was played Amon-Ra St. Brown and got 42 points from him. Got Roma Dunze for 34. He actually played a lot of different players, played Rams as well, Connor there as well. So interesting play there. I think, you need to get a little lucky once in a while. And I think Amon-Ra and Roma Dunze, scoring that many points, playing them together with Javonte Williams, who I wouldn't have played in that spot at all. So that was a pretty good play there for running back. And again, that is ECU Pirate, which currently is in 6th place after 3 weeks. He's kind of in the middle of the pack right there. So interesting plays there for ECU. And then Quentin Cook, maybe this is Q. Maybe he's sneaking into the league, Quentin Cook, 9, plays Josh Allen. So spent really high for Josh Allen. I don't personally spend as high for elite quarterback. I try to save at quarterback because they have a lot of chances to score regardless of their price. But of course, the top 3-4 elite quarterbacks are going to score the most. So that's definite. CMC, he played as well as me. Tep McMillan, he played as well. Neighbors for 40 points. So again, I didn't spend high on wide receiver for this week, and he did and scored 40 points with Malik Neighbors. JSN I had. Warren I had last week, and then Fannin I had too. So if we look at Quentin Cook and we say, all right, let's look at the heads up, and then we take away the shared players, it was basically a 5v5. I spent down at quarterback. He spent up at quarterback. And then where I spent up is a little bit more towards the flex for Devon Achane. He spent down for his tight end with Tyler Warren. So interesting how he played out there. But who did I have as tight end? Fannin. Right. Oh, so he played 2 tight ends. So that's unusual. Yeah. So that's unusual. He played, and that's good to know. You know, Quentin Cook over here, he playing 2 tight ends in his lineup, which is very unusual. He scored more because he had Neighbors and JSN, but I don't particularly like that play, honestly. I'm going to play 3 running backs most of the time, and then the second most likely is going to be 3 wide receivers, but not going to play 3 or 2 tight ends ever, really, honestly. But good to see. So those were the only two teams that beat me 2 weeks ago. Again, I had Drake May, CMC. I had the JSN. I had Fannin, paid down for him, and Devon Achane. I wasn't able to get enough from my. It wasn't that bad of a week, honestly. I think it was Neighbors, fading Neighbors, and fading. Who was the other guy that just went? Oh, Roma Doomsday. I didn't have either of those. And if you have one of those and a decent lineup, you're going to win on those weeks that they go off. And then the last piece is the person that had the most. Who's in third right now? C. Gallus had a bit of a smaller or a lower week. He played Drake May too. So let's look at this. Again, this is third place overall in the league right now. So kind of looking at those top players, we had a 4v4. So C. Gallus had 126 points. He played the same players as me, other than he went with Henry, who scored only 2 points. Again, 2 weeks ago, 2 points. He went with Warren. I like that play. It's a little bit more expensive than Fannin, which is why I went with Fannin at tight end. And Booty. He played Booty, which is just paying down. He's paying down for Booty instead of paying up for Higgins. In ETN, again, paying down for ETN instead of paying up for Devon Achane. So interesting play there. Again, he finished 7th in the week, but he is 3rd overall. And then let's look at one more before we move on. Gatekeeper. So let's see where he's at. No, Heno 18. So let's look at Heno 18. Didn't have a great week, 124 points. But again, let's see how he played against me. He didn't play any of the same players that I did, barely. He only had one of the same players. So interesting what we have there. And we got Burrow, McCaffrey I have, and everybody else was different. Chase went off too, and not a lot of people pay up for wide receivers with Chase. So interesting week. I want to look over those. When I do my reviews, I like to look at the top 3 or 4 in the league as a total, because they're going to be playing again over and over again. We're playing the same guys over and over again. We want to kind of learn their habits, how they're playing, and especially the ones that are at the top of the league, because we're also playing for a big pot at the end of the season for our season-long total points, which I am number 1 out of the 13 right now, about 17 points ahead of number 2, and we're going to kind of keep track of those as we go on. Same week, let's look at Jesse's lineup versus me. Let's see if we had any of the same players. No. So 2 weeks in a row, we did not have any of the same players, but I will give him credit. He did have a good week with 133 points, lost to my 145, but a very good week for Jesse. He plays Dak Prescott, which that's interesting. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't have the greatest week. Travis Etienne, AJ Brown. I wonder why he played him, and maybe he knows. Maybe he would explain that, but I don't know why he played him. Tyreek Hill again. You know what? 19 points, results oriented is actually not that bad, but definitely not a player that I am playing at all. and not a player that I am, targeting for season long previously, but also for DFS. Booty, he played as well as he plays Booty. And Chiggy at tight end. Lamb didn't do too bad, but he pays up at flex position as well as AJ Brown. So I got the Allagash White. We got Ave in the chat, Allagash White. We got a little beer going on here. We got to basically finish my entire basement beer. And that's what we're doing today. So not bad. Again, none of the same players. So that's why when I look back at, the person who tied me in the league for week 2, I'm going to look at him as like, all right, he must be kind of reviewing and looking at the same stuff I am because he has the same exact players as me. The opposite goes for Jesse, where he has none of the same players as me. And that is something to take into consideration as well for week 2. All right, let's move on to week 3. My first win of the season out of the 13 guys. We got a win with 176 points on the board. And this is where I get cute. Okay, so what I mean by that is this was a slate that I looked at and I said, all right, there's a couple things here. We had 5 backup quarterbacks playing. So one of those backup quarterbacks has to be value. Because what you're saying is basically the salaries on these quarterbacks and all players are set on the Monday prior to Monday Night Football. So even if someone goes off in Monday Night Football, their salary is already set for the next week. That goes for also injuries and backups and things that happen during the week. So you have 5 quarterbacks at a very low price. And now they're starting. And so now they're going to be put into a volume situation where they're going to be able to score points. And now you can pay up at other spots because you're paying down a quarterback. So that's what I did with Mariota. I think that was really well. It results oriented. It worked out with 21 points. And I was able to get to CMC at 8,200. And I was able to get to JSN at 6,500. JT in the flex was 7,200. So very interesting. Now, what I mean by I got a little cute with this lineup was probably 10 minutes to lock. So like 10 minutes to 1 o'clock. And I'm locking up my lineup. And I asked myself a really important question. How many Colts is too many Colts to play? So I had in my lineup, which I thought was optimal, I had Tyler Warren, I had JT, and I had the Colts defense. It's not unheard of to play like an onslaught of players from the same team. You could get up to, especially in tournaments, you can get up to 5-6 players from the same team. But for cash or for something small field like 13 player league, it's a little different. And I think one of the comments I made after week 1 was I got to get a little bit different. My week 1, I finished 3rd, but I realized that not just having a decent lineup is not going to win in a 13 field tournament or small field cash game. And so it's like, all right, how do I get a little bit different and differentiate myself from the field? And what I decided was to go with 3 Colts. Now that worked out pretty well. I paid down for Tyler Warren, but he only scored about 7 points. What happened is I got JT, who scored 35 points, and Colts. Again, they had a defensive touchdown. So very random, very, not predictable to get defensive touchdowns. So I wouldn't say that was like a great play by me, and I knew they were going to score 15 points. But what it did was it got me a little bit different. Let's just look at the top 3 teams and how many players played Colts, and it's 0. So that for the defense. Yeah. So that's where you get a little bit different to say, all right, if I play 3 Colts, it's very unlikely that anyone else is playing 3 Colts, and it may work out. The other part where I got a little cute and a little different this time was I left $600 behind, which I never do. So in DFS, it's a salary game. You're paying for your players. You have $50,000 to form a lineup. And you're really supposed to, game theory optimal, you're really supposed to leave about, either $0 or 100 or 200. That's kind of like looked at as the normal threshold. I left $600 on the table because of how much value I was getting from Mariota, how much value I was getting from CMC, and being able to get to him and JT. Playing CMC and JT is very unusual because of how expensive they are, but I got there because I played the Colts and I played Mariota. So interesting way to look at it for me going forward. I was in between Colts and who was it? Packers. And so I was really happy with my decision there with Colts. They scored more than the Packers, and I could get up to the Packers. I also could get up to Saquon Barkley. And that was like a decision for me too, because I'm like, all right, I have JT, I have CMC. I could still get up to Barkley. I think it was instead of JT because I had that $600 extra, and I decided against it. I decided to go with the 3 Colts. I had Keenan Allen with 15 or 19 points. I had Kenneth Walker the third with 18 points. Roma Doomsday I did play in week 3, didn't play in week 2, had 15 points, and then JSN I've been playing. It feels like every week. So very, very interesting there. So let's look again at some of the top players in the field and who came close to me. Heno 18, which again is number 4 overall in the league, came in second last week. So let's look at him head to head. And let's take away those shared players. So it was a 5v5. He played Mac Jones. So again, the same concept there as my Mariota was his Mac Jones. I can pay down for quarterback. He's a backup that has a low price and hopefully get some production from him. He got 14 points. He did play Bijan Robinson. Ricky Pearsall was actually a pretty good play, 22 points there. Juwan Johnson, not someone I would have played, but that is a play. And then Browns, I mean, they also had I think no touchdowns, but they had an interception, 5 sacks and a block, so 13 points there. So not far off. Colts were 3,300, Browns were 22. So think about it, you're paying down at defense $2,200. I mean, that's nothing. Probably one of the cheaper defenses. Yeah, they're playing Green Bay. So that was an interesting play there. And that's something that, again, you want to get a little different. You want to pay down at defense. You want to pay down at tight end, and then you can pay up everywhere else. So interesting there. Let's see who else is here. Alfred House, the number 2 in the league, played every player that I played other than 3. So basically we had a 3v3 against each other. I went with Tyler Warren. He went with McBride. So a difference of $1,300. Now McBride did outscore him, but I was able to save money to get to Jonathan Taylor at 7,200, where he had Mason, which again, he had 26 points. So really not bad. But I had 35 points with JT. So really, really hard to win when you don't play a player that has 35 points. So even though he had 26, I was still able to beat him by about 8 points. And JT scored about 9 points more than him. So that was the decision right there. My defense kind of offset his McBride. His McBride basically offset my defense. And then our 2 differences in players were the difference in our total points, which was JT and Mason. Both really did well, but I scored 9 more points with JT. And then let's do one more. C. Gallus is again the 3rd in the league right now after 3 weeks. And we did play quite a bit of different players. So 5v5, he went with Drake May, cheaper starter. Wasn't a backup, but cheaper starter. So that means that he must have went with Mariota, Heno. No, he went Mac Jones. Yeah. Okay. Alfred. Yeah, so Alfred went with Mariota. So that's, again, something we want to look at to say this guy, number 2 overall, is playing the right plays. He's got Mariota. He's got Kenneth Walker. He's got a Doomsday. He got JSN. He's got Keenan Allen. So basically all the players I was playing, he had CMC. So again, we want to keep an eye on that and kind of realize that. C. Gallus, not as much. We had 5 different players. Don't love Garrett Wilson. He played well. He did well, but don't love that play. And I'm not paying up at wide receiver this year. Just not doing it. So let's see if we have anybody else we want to check out. The last one that's on here is Powder Black with 154 points. Let's see. He played Mariota as well. Let's see how many players I got here. Okay. 4v4. Again, no one played the Colts defense, but he did play Steelers and he got a point more and paid less to get to McBride. Not a bad play. I don't mind that. Myers is interesting, and then Bijan Robinson just didn't produce like Jonathan Taylor did. And so when you're not playing Jonathan Taylor on this slate, it's going to be really hard to win. So that's my review of the contest. Again, let's put this up on there. I am number one after 3 weeks. You can see me up here with 441 points cashed in every single week. And then we have the 3 or 4 guys we were talking about the most: Alfred, Callus, C. Gallus, Heno, and Powder Black. So those are kind of ones I'm going to keep my eye on. Again, I'm still about 50 points ahead of them. But you can easily have, like, a good player could easily have 96 or 81 points in a given week. And so you're right back to where you were. Right now, I'm playing pretty well. Top 3 scores in every single week. So number one overall, and happy about that. So something I definitely want to be monitoring during the season and kind of feeling out how they play. And then last but not least is our Jesse lineup for week 3. So for last week, let's see if we had any of the shared players. Yeah, we did actually. So he played, let's see, Kenneth Walker. Yeah. So he played Kenneth Walker the third. He paid down at defense with Jets at 2,200. Not a bad play there. JCM for cross scheme merit, Bill. He played him for 10 points. So, and then he played Lamb. I mean, so we had a lot of players. What I guarantee is if we go back to our league and we go to the Quentin Cook at 96, I bet he played Lamb. Yeah, so he played Lamb. Or golfer here, he probably played Lamb. So anybody that plays someone that ends up getting 0 is gonna be hurt in that week, obviously. So Jesse did go with Lamb. I do like the stack he went with. He went with Prescott and Lamb on the same lineup. So I actually like that. I think that's a really good play. That's the right play, results oriented. Obviously, Lamb got hurt and he got 0 points, but I do like that play. He did play Kenneth Walker. I like that play. Olave, he scored a decent amount. I mean, Jesse in general scored 108 points, so not great, but not bad either. Let's see what he would have finished in the league that I'm in. He would have finished 11th. Okay. So I mean, not terrible. Justin Jefferson, Warren. He played Warren. Okay, so we both played Warren and Walker. So he did play 2 players that I had. Ricky Pearsall, someone I considered. And again, I really like that play. If you want to pay down at wide receiver, and then the Jets. So not bad. I think this is one of the better lineups, even though he had less points than week 2. I like this lineup. He's focusing on the right players. Rather than the first 2 weeks, which I believe, in my opinion, they were all, basically the wrong players. But he got a little closer last week. He only lost by 12 points last week, so he was a little bit closer, but didn't play any of the same players. And then this week, he was way further out. I mean, I had 176, but he played 2 of the same players, which I like to see, and I think that's something that he's doing right. And then again, he played Dak Prescott for both weeks. So that's interesting. I'm not against Dak Prescott. He's not in the optimal lineups, in my opinion, just because of his price and but if you're stacking him with Lamb, it's getting a little different. Maybe I don't mind that play. So not bad for Jesse, not bad overall for DFS. Again, for the heads up, we're 3-0 against Jesse. And then for the league, we are number 1 overall after 3 weeks with 1 win last week. Now let's not have that be our only win. I don't expect to win every week. I don't expect to cash every week. To cash 3 weeks in a row is very unusual. Even out of 13 players, love to see it, but very unusual. Not something I'm going to expect every single week, but it's good to review. It's good to look at this stuff. It's good to see how other players are playing, especially those top 5. We're going to kind of continue to revisit that, even when I don't win. We want to look back and say, all right, what did I do wrong? What did they do? That might be something I can learn from, and vice versa. What did I do that may be a little bit better than they did? In this lineup, in my opinion, it was the 3 Colts. That's very unusual. I guarantee not a single other team or player did that. And I think that's where I have to get a little bit weird once in a while in the right way, but just a little bit weird. And I'm glad I held back $600 because I never do that. I spend that where I can. But I didn't this time, and I'm glad I went with 3 Colts instead of switching out for the Packers. And again, that worked out well. So it's good. I don't want to be too results oriented. Just because I did it one time and it worked doesn't mean it's going to work every time. But I am happy to see that it did, and it may help me be hesitant in spending 100% and be hesitant in being the exact optimal lineup instead of getting off the board just a little bit. All right, so we're going to get out of there. I want to do these reviews just a little bit quicker, have a little bit quicker of content out there. I'm going to be on later with Ben. We'll probably do our Jersey Crew podcast later today. And then I'll probably get out a My World of Fantasy podcast as well this week, just going over all of my action. DFS has been a lot of fun. Again, I stepped back from the public tournaments and the public cash and just stuck to this league, the 13 guys, and then stuck to the heads up. And that's been a lot of fun. Of course, now I'm doing really well. So if I was playing public cash or public tournaments, I'd probably be making money right now, but it's okay. I like this focus and I like being very cognizant of who I'm playing and how they're playing to differentiate my lineups on a week-to-week basis. That part of it's fun for me. So. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. If I do well, actually, no, regardless if I do well or not, I'll be back next week to review, kind of go over the top players in the league and kind of continue to look at what I can do to hopefully finish number one at the end of the season and gather and get some wins along the way. All right, guys, see you later.